Hello, everyone. I am ecstatic to invite you guys to the very first episode of the Maya Abdallah show, where you guys come on this journey with me talking to women of the diaspora who have shown ultimate success and power and inspiration. And we have none other than the most amazing Alana Hadid with us today. I couldn't think or imagine a better person that could be sitting with me right now. You were like my Arab American idol.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so honored to be your first guest.
Oh my God, I'm so honored. This is this is amazing.
It's amazing. It's honestly awesome.
So I was gonna just start this episode talking about, growing up Arab, and we'll definitely get to that. But I think we do need to address the absolute insanity of last night.
Oh, yeah. We should really talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have words left.
I have nothing.
And I was saying to a friend the other day that, God, every day feels like 10 days. Last night, that I don't even have tears left.
Yeah.
I cry about random things now.
Yeah.
And the really traumatic things, I'm just thinking about how I can disseminate the information, how I can get that out there, how I can, make sure that people are seeing what's happening. And so I go into kind of like, creator mode instead of, humanity mode where I cry. But there was a tent massacre and we don't even have any idea of how many people have died. And I think that it's important that we talk about it because it's what's happening right now on the ground.
It's insane. I mean, the way that I react to the absolute horror of seeing like what we saw last night, if I don't compartmentalize it, I will go insane.
Yeah.
I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
I think too, as Palestinians, like we're also carrying the like intergenerational trauma of our parents witnessing it, our grandparents witnessing it, and now us witnessing it.
Yeah.
Like I can't physically do it anymore.
That's a good point. I think we carry so much, generational trauma.
Yeah.
My father and grandparents went through so much horror. I think my dad is, like witnessing this again. And in a lot of ways, I'm grateful that my grandparents aren't seeing this.
Oh, me too.
Because it's like they fought for their entire lives to not be at this place. And so the fact that we are back here, and my dad says constantly, like, this is worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is worse.
My mom too, she says it wasn't as physically aggressive last time.
Yeah.
She said when she experienced intifadas, it wasn't like everything there was beauty in like the struggle and the resistance. And I feel like it's just so bleak.
Yeah. It's, if what we're seeing and what we're witnessing and everyone is witnessing it and it's happening and it's, it's live streamed literally.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about it is that it's being live streamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to spring that on you first.
No,
I mean,
it's it's top of mind for me.
It's crazy.
It's it's what I walked in here thinking about. It's what I went to sleep thinking about. I mean, we're thinking about it all the time, but this specific act is so incredibly heinous. Yeah. So I appreciate that we're not just going around and talking about
pretending like it's not happening.
And that we're not breaking down because I think and you and I were talking about this. I think that people see, we're really strong. Palestinians are incredibly strong. And especially Palestinians in the diaspora are really trying to educate and make sure that people understand what's going on. And I think that people need to also know that we are suffering. Like, this is traumatic. This is horrible. Yeah.
I wonder because I think we can relate on like the trying to put out as much information as possible aspect. I wonder if you feel similarly to how I feel with the immense pressure to constantly be the informant of what's happening. I don't even have time to process. Like last night I see the video, I'm like, how do I make a video about like, how do I get this out there? How do I make people see this? And then it's like you post the video and then you're like, wait, I just
I just talked about something horrific and I didn't actually process through it. Yeah.
It's insane.
I mean, it is an immense amount of pressure. I also feel at the same time incredibly honored, you know, in a lot of ways, because the fact that people on the street, random people, American people or whatever country I'm in or place I'm in, just walking up and saying thank you or whispering Free Palestine to me. Like that means a lot. But yeah, of course, there's not just the pressure of giving, you know, trying to show the world this information, but also trying to navigate through an algorithm that does not want us there. Yeah. You know, that does not want the information that we have to say Jenny side. We have to say, put a watermelon emoji or say watermelon people instead of Palestinians. Like there's so many different layers of, we can't just say the words we want to say. We can't just scream what we want to scream because no one will see it.
And you feel so gaslit because I'm like witnessing the massacre of my people. I go to post a video and then it's either like Zionists in the comments being like, you're lying, actually, that person isn't dead.
Yeah.
Or it's like the algorithm being like, oh, your video was actually taken down for hate.
Yeah.
Hate speech.
Yeah. And you're like, well, what's happening is hateful. And so like, you know, maybe you should be doing some sort of like, I just think it's ridiculous that we are being journalists.
I know. I literally always say, like, all my Palestinian friends, once a week, we have like an immense breakdown.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I'm like, you were never supposed to have to fight for this. This was never your job.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you can, and you've been like gifted the greatest honor of life to fight for Palestine. But this was never your job. We were never supposed to be like the political leaders of the Middle East, or we were never like, I'm 22. I'm like a baby. I feel like a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like begging people online to stop funding the massacre of my people. Like I should be like getting lit right now. I should be like getting lit. I'm like,
I mean, I'm 40. I should be like reading a book and going to sleep at 6 p.m. But I mean, like, this is what we're doing. And I think there's also something to be said about, you know, the torture on oppressed people all over the world, having to educate people on their oppression.
Yeah.
I think that is true in America. That is true for people in the Middle East. That is true for people in Africa. That is true for so many people around the world that are going through the suffering of either experiencing oppression or watching their people be oppressed, and then also having to take the time not to process through what's going on, but educate people on it, because the world that we live in is those people are doing it to themselves. They deserve it. You know, all of these different things. And it's real insanity.
It's insanity. I got a comment on my Instagram yesterday.
I'm like,
and this girl was like, Israel would give Gaza aid if Hamas wasn't so evil.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so let's think about this clearly. Like, you want children to starve because you don't agree with a resistance group.
Yeah.
Let's sit with that. And it's like, I read that. Those affect me the most.
Really?
Yeah, that affects me more than like them sending me like, I hope you die. I hope whatever. I get it every day. Oh, yeah. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
When they're like, Palestinians literally deserve to die. Like those kids deserve to die. I can't take it.
Yeah.
I freak out.
I think I've been so desensitized to especially, you know, I spent a couple of years like during quarantine on Clubhouse for a really long time. Yeah. And I heard it all.
You were entrenched.
So I kind of feel like I like understand weirdly, like that's another part of it is, again, oppressed people, especially, not especially, but also Palestinians, have had to educate themselves not only on their oppression, but also the words and the history of their oppressors. And every oppressed person has had to do that. We have to know exactly where our oppressor is coming from in order to combat it so that people will believe that we have the right to live.
It's so great.
Insanity.
Zionists always want to argue with me about like the exact verbiage of like the history of the Israeli occupation. I'm like, that doesn't change the 40,000.
Yeah.
Like who who was there 2,000 years ago? Like, I always say, like, I don't care what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't justify a massacre with, like, 2,000-year-old history.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
But that just speaks to the resistance of the Palestinian people. Like, we've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And we're still here and we're still fighting.
And we're not going to stop. And I think that that's also important. You know, one of the things that pisses them off the most about us is that not only do we have this beautiful culture and these amazing religions and, you know, food and music and clothing, all these things that are like so embody who we are, but also that we have hope.
Yeah.
And we cling to our hope, and we're never going to lose. Like, no amount of horror is going to, you know, keep Palestinians from being hopeful for our freedom.
And Zionists are so confused.
Yeah.
They're like, how are they still going?
They ask.
No, they ask all the time. They're like, how are you still doing? Because, you know, in like, during October, when like everything was going crazy, they were like, don't worry, like in 3 months, they're going to just move on. I'm like, oh, you think I'm going to move on? We're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Arab women are crazy. I'm going to hold on to this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, totally. In like, the best possible way. Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of food, quick segue. Something I wanted to do on this podcast to just kind of connect me more to our culture and also kind of a beautiful labor of love for our wonderful guests. I ask every guest to tell me just the Arab food that reminds them of their childhood and something that has good memories. And Alana said, what a enab. So last night, reveal. Last night I stayed up till 3 a.m. This is the hardest dish, but I'm so glad
sorry.
No. I'm so glad you picked it because it literally is like you put love in every bite.
Yeah.
So I made you some wara.
Oh, thank you. Can we eat it?
Yeah. Should we try it?
Yeah. I'm like, how am I going to get to it?
Here we go.
Thank you.
Some wara. Cheers.
Cheers.
To Palestine.
To Palestine. It's good.
You like
good.
it? Really?
Yeah, it's good.
I warned her beforehand.
She thought it wasn't good.
I was like, yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Thank you.
We're
It's so
our own
hard.
worst critics.
Oh my gosh. I was eating this. I was like, my mom's going to kill me that I gave Alana Hadid. Like,
First of all, your wrap is very good.
Okay,
That is, I have to say, because my teta was like the best. When she basically would not put it in the pot, even though we were like 3, if it wasn't wrapped.
Yeah.
Like, and rightfully so, because if it comes apart, it just ruins the whole pot. But
Thank you.
your wrap is very good.
I had years of being an imbecile to prepare me for wrapping wara enab. And that's like the best part of it. Like that's the fun part for me. Making the mix is hard though.
Yeah, but it was really good.
Thank you so much.
No, really. I'm like not just saying this because we're on camera.
I was like, please say it's good. I was like, listen, my future husband is watching this. He has to know that I can cook. I have
like future plans based on just this. This dish.
I'm like, listen, Alana Hadid gave me her sign off that I can be your wife.
Put a ring on it. Okay?
Put a ring on it. I'm aging out.
Yeah.
I'm aging out.
I'm 40. This is my grandma's ring, okay? You're not aging out.
Oh,
but
thank you.
Those are good and worthy of a ring.
Thank you
so
much. Well, now that we've tried it, I feel like so great.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
So I wanted to chat with you and kind of like why I made this podcast because I grew up very Arabless.
Me too.
Extremely Arabless in like a small Georgian town.
Yeah.
And I always thought like if I could see like an older version of myself, it would help me so much to see like it is possible to connect with your culture later on and also just like the plight of being an Arab girl in America. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think there's layers to it. It's like you have like the womanhood, which in itself is so difficult.
Yeah.
And then under that, you have like the plight of Arab womanhood, which is like you're kind of walking blind into the unknown. So I want to know about growing up Palestinian in California?
No, I grew up in Virginia.
In Virginia.
Yeah. I grew up in Virginia, right outside of D.C., like right near the CIA. Yeah.
Amazing.
Literally, I went to Langley High School. Shout out Saxons.
Yeah.
Actually, not shout out to Saxons because they were colonizers, but whatever.
Fuck Saxons.
But nonetheless, I grew up in Virginia. That's where my Jiddo and Teta immigrated after being displaced for many years. So even though my dad was like somewhere in the range of 9 days old when they were ethnically cleansed, they didn't immigrate to the U.S. until my dad was about 14. So, you know, ostensibly 14 years of being refugees in multiple different countries until they came to the U.S. And, you know, they're still refugees. I want to point that out. When you're displaced from your country forcibly, you are a refugee until you can go back. No matter how successful, how great your life becomes, you are still a refugee. So my father to this day is a refugee from Palestine.
That gave me chills.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it's important to say that because a lot of people are like, well, your dad has done really well for himself. Like, look at your sisters, look at you, whatever. And it doesn't matter.
Like, what does that mean?
My father can become king of the universe. He's still a refugee from Palestine. And actually, I'm wearing blue because I'm reclaiming blue. I want to put that out there. I'm reclaiming the color blue because the color blue is the color of Suffolk, the city he would have lived in if he had been able to stay.
We're no longer letting them ruin
Yes,
things
exactly.
for us.
Blue is a color. It's good for my eyes. I'm bringing it back.
It looks great on you. Yeah, blue and white, like.
Yeah, I love blue and white. I have a lot of blue and white. I haven't been able to wear it, but I'm reclaiming it.
Also, blue and white didn't start in Israel. It started in Tunis, in Tunisia.
My childhood was full. It was full of Palestine.
Yeah.
But because my teta did that, it was very important to her that she created Palestine for us. So her home was, you know, it felt like being back in the Arab world. Like when I went to Palestine, I felt at home, and not just because, you know, I was home, but because when I walked into homes, they smelled and they felt and they looked like my teta's house. And I knew that she did that intentionally. She really, she was a modern woman, but she didn't like modernize her home because I think she wanted her family, her children, her grandchildren to really feel what it would have been like to be in Palestine. And so the house always smelled like food. She was always cooking. You know, there was always, you know, coffee with cardamom on the stove. Like it really just felt, and it was very subconscious. I had no idea that I was being like, you know, shown what Palestine would have been like. But later on when I got to go, it was like such a visceral feeling of my family. Wow. Just walking into like my cousin's home, I was like, oh, I get it now. I understand.
And that in itself is resistance.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Your teta was a resistance fighter.
Oh, she really was, though.
She was.
She really was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, all of it. Like, I don't speak Arabic. I did when I was a child, like understood, but I don't. And that doesn't make me any less Palestinian or any less Arab. I'm the result of an ethnic cleansing of my people. Like that is, I think, so important. People are like, well, you don't speak Arabic and you weren't born there. Well, I wasn't allowed to be born there.
Oh my gosh, we need to get into that. Because I think my Arabic's not the best. I can understand the Palestinian dialect fluently. Yeah. But like it's so hard to get out because I was, again, born and raised in Georgia. Me, my brother, and a girl in his grade were the only Arabs at my school. Yeah. So it's like there was no place to speak it. But I think like some people in the diaspora kind of use that against Arabs that can't speak Arabic. And it's so frustrating because it's like, I should have been there. I should have been born there. I should have been raised there. Yep. I can't. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to. Yeah. And although my family is from the West Bank, it's like the occupation drills so deeply that even if you weren't physically displaced, my mother was emotionally displaced 100%. So early on. So yeah, I think you not speaking Arabic it means literally nothing. I think like
it's my goal to learn so that when we go home I can speak to everyone. But I don't feel like I misrepresent Palestine just because I can't speak the language. It's sad for me because I wish that I did. And I have like a tinge of jealousy to my friends who, had that kind of Arabic in their home. And I because I didn't, doesn't mean that I wasn't established in a Palestinian home. My mom is half Irish and like is incredibly pro-Palestinian, like, and has been since before she met my father.
Gosh,
my
legend.
Grandparents they're Irish, like 100%. My mom was in the West Bank on October 7th.
Wow.
Was in Nablus. So was teaching at a school. And I'm just like, I'm super proud of my family heritage. I'm like, what I would say is like white passing. Like people don't believe that I'm Palestinian.
Really?
Well, I think it's hilarious because Palestinians see how Palestinian I look.
Yeah.
But other people are like, are you Scandinavian or like Russian or
you
something?
have a really unique look.
Exactly. Like,
where did you get it?
Exactly. Like, where are you from? Like Slovenia or something? And I'm like, no, I'm Palestinian. And it's funny because when I was in the West Bank, people were coming up to me. I was with my cousin who lives there. And people were coming up to me and speaking Arabic, and they were asking her where in America she was from.
No way.
And I was laughing because I was like, yeah, I look really Palestinian.
Yeah,
like,
you look so Palestinian.
100%. Especially now that I have brown hair. I dyed my hair blonde for a long time, but
it looks amazing.
Yeah. There are blonde Palestinians.
And I think the reason that people don't know that is because it doesn't fit into this like
Thank you.
brown man holds gun, scary guy trope that America had to tell people so that Americans would be okay with them absolutely decimating these countries.
For sure.
But yeah, you have the most Palestinian look ever.
I think I do.
Like, especially the most Gazawi look.
Yeah.
Like, Gazawis are blue eyes, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Blue eyes, blonde hair. My aunt is Gazawi, and you guys look so similar.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And that's what's also so incredibly heartbreaking is, like, I look at these videos where I see these young children all the time, and they just look like they could be my kids.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like, that's just like a pain that I like don't know how to express to like anyone else.
Yeah.
Other than, like my friends and family. It's like, it's just to look into like a child's eyes and to see like yourself in that child. And that could be me. That could be you, whoever you are, wherever you're from. It's, it's that whole idea. It's like they came for them, and I said nothing because I wasn't them. But, they came for Palestinians, and people said nothing because they're not Palestinian. But they're coming for you.
Yeah.
They're coming for all of us.
This affects all of America.
Everyone. Yeah.
Which I want to get into, but one thing I wanted to say before we move on from this topic, what you said about like seeing those kids in your eyes, that's what really frustrates me about like Palestinian creators that have just been like silent since October 7th. Because there is nothing separating you from the people of Gaza other than where your parents walked to when they were displaced. Where your parents ran to when they were displaced. That could have been you. There's no reason it's not.
Yeah.
And I get so frustrated because it's like, that is you. Like you look into these eyes of these people and I see myself.
Yeah.
We look so alike. We're so similar. We were raised with the same food. We ate the same thing every day growing up. We have the same life.
Yep.
And it's
I'm not religious, but in almost every religious text there's a saying basically, there but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah.
And it's like no matter what, that could be you.
Yeah.
Who you are,
Yeah.
where you are, what you're doing, that could be you. And for that alone, you should be fighting for the freedom of so many people, of every person, because that could be you.
What's so crazy to me about Americans that are just like, la, 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 is even if you can't care for like the dying Palestinians, which is, again, insane, you should care that you have like no say in your American tax dollars. Insane. Like, our country is falling apart and our money is going billions, hundreds of billions is going to a foreign country. I think about Republicans all the time and they're so like anal about where our tax dollars go. And that's like their biggest thing, like keep our tax dollars in America.
But then they're waving Israeli flags.
What?
Yeah, it's actually totally ridiculous. It's these people are America first. And yet Israel first, then America first. It's insane.
Like, they say America first, talking about like actual Americans that aren't white. Like when they're talking about like giving healthcare to like renewing DACA, for example, or the Dream Act, whatever. They're like Americans first when those are actually Americans. And then when we're like literally feeding the IDF gluten-free cookies, they're like,
that's great.
Guys.
Yeah. We got to protect them.
Guys, these are our people. But you know what's crazy is like the most anti-Semitic people in America are white Christian Americans.
Yeah. Well, we already know that Israel has no problem dealing with anti-Semites.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah.
As long as it benefits them, they're okay with it.
Oh, yeah.
But then they're going to paint Palestinians with this broad brush as well. But you're already okay with anti-Semites.
Yeah.
So like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing.
Oh my gosh.
Anti-Semitism is real. It exists.
So real.
They are completely degrading the word. And the reality, there were men in polo shirts with tiki torches walking through the streets in Virginia saying they will not replace us. But Palestinians who are peacefully protesting for their own people, those are anti-Semites.
Oh my God, there are Nazis. Yeah. Like there are Nazis walking the earth today among us saying,
horrible
finish the job.
Yeah.
And they're focused on Palestinians being like, hey, like I would love it if you didn't like
kill us.
And they're like, actually, you hate Jewish people.
Yeah. That's the comment we get a lot.
Yeah.
She
just hates Jewish
because
people.
That's the only retort. Listen, you can't.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, there's logic and reality and humanity on our side, and that by the way, that retort has worked.
Yeah,
for the last 76 years, it has been what has kept people from having this conversation. Yeah. And the fact that it's no longer working is very frustrating for them.
Oh my God. And also like the thing about the anti-Semitic allegation is when there is an anti-Semitic hate crime and Jewish people speak up, the world is not going to pay as much attention to it as they need to
100%.
Because they are labeling millions of people globally as anti-Semites. You lose value to the word.
Well, listen, if you're a country who is touting yourself as the representative for the entire Jewish population while you commit a genocide, then you are responsible for anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Period.
Oh my gosh.
Period. And
write that down. Write that down.
Period. That's it.
Yeah.
If people are upset right now, and I'm not the person saying this. Yeah. Jewish anti-Zionists are saying this all over the world. All over the world, they're saying, not in our name. Yeah. You do not represent us. You are not helping us. Yeah. You are also not making us safer. And that is the truth. If people are hateful right now of Jewish people, and I think it's important that we always talk about the difference between Judaism and Zionism and Israelism and all of these things. Yeah. But what's more important is that a state is saying they represent all Jewish people while they are committing horrible atrocities for the last 76 years. And so if you want to know where a lot of the basis of people thinking that Jewish people do horrible things, which I don't believe, but I know that there's a country that is saying we are a representative for all Jewish people, then you wonder why people are upset.
And what's so sad to me for the Jewish population is that Israel is using them as the scapegoat 100%. For all of this. Israel does not care about like protecting the Jewish image. they use it fully in the name of their greatest yield.
Yeah.
So like the more that they can get, they don't care if they need to say like.
Well, we don't even have to say it.
Yeah.
Just look at the videos of how the Israeli police force and IDF treat Hasidic Jews. That's it. I don't have to even say a single thing. When people come out against the government and they're also protesting their government, which, you know, listen, however I feel about that, they're rightfully protesting their government.
Legally.
They are being beaten and hurt. And I thought that they were supposed to be protecting Jewish people. Those are Jewish people now.
Did you see the video of them, the IDF beating the family of the hostages?
Oh, the hostages? Oh, yeah, I posted that. Yeah.
What? Like,
not only do you not care about the hostages, you obviously don't care about Jewish people if you're going to be beating the families of the hostages in the street.
When they comment like free the hostages, I'm like, take this up with Netanyahu. We tried like I think it was denied 5 times.
October 10th was like the first attempt to release all the hostages.
3 days.
Yeah.
And they're like, what about the hostages? Take that up with your prime minister.
100%.
We're down.
Yep. They also say, if you free the hostages, this will end. Although multiple people in the Knesset and ministers of the government have said, no, that's not true. And it's like, it's insanity. They're telling us all the things you need to know about what are going on have been said by Israeli ministers and Knesset members. That's what's insane, is that Palestinians are saying things, and it's not like they're being denied. They're being reinforced by their own government, and people are still like, you guys are bad.
The video of the female IDF soldiers in captivity that came out like last week. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, I did. Yeah, but they're IDF soldiers. Let's say that again.
The Israeli government came out and said, these are IDF soldiers. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting comments being like, first of all, you're lying. Those are civilians. Mm-hmm. Those are young girls.
Well, no 19-year-old girl in Israel is not an IDF soldier.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it works. That's it. That's the way it works. Once you turn 18, you are enlisted unless you refuse your military service,
and then you go to jail.
Is 0.0000001% of the population refuses their military service.
Yeah. And if they go to jail.
It happens. But if you're 19 and you're in Israel, you are an IDF soldier.
Yeah. And they're all like, my favorite thing about them is they're always like, well, this is war. Babies die during war. Mm-hmm. This is war. And then Hamas captures IDF soldiers and they're like, those young girls are white women.
Yeah. They called Hind a
woman,
a young lady, and they call these 19-year-old soldiers girls. And I find that alone explains exactly what's going on in this world. That alone.
And I've made a video about this and I want to talk about it more. It's like people are struggling to understand like how this is possible, like how the media can do this to a group of people and how so many people are believing it. And I'm like, you think this started on October 7th? The media has been training you to hate Arabs since you were born.
Yeah.
The media has been training you to see an Arab man and say, bad guy scary, terrorist man, and to see a white person and think hero, saving us, heroic.
Well, how did we invade Iraq after 9/11 when none of the people who perpetrated 9/11 were Iraqi? That's the thing. Like, people need to go back and have an understanding that historically all of these things have been used to further capitalistic and imperialist and all these different like horrible colonialist ideologies. Yeah. So I think that like the punchline here is we've been lied to.
Yeah.
Period. We've been lied to. Your government has lied to you.
Yeah.
Wherever you are in the world, you don't have to be an American. Your government is lying to you and they're not telling the truth. And it's been important for them to dehumanize Arabs in order to pillage us of our resources, of our land, and our strategic area. There were so many movies that came out that made the soldiers and the people sexy.
So sexy.
Oh, 100%. And like at the time, I was definitely like, ooh, hot, like, you know, army guys or whatever.
I loved it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, you know, Zero Dark 30 and all these movies that came out that were like really like they made it look interesting and exciting. And by the way, important to note that the CIA and the FBI and all of these, you know, the Pentagon, all are involved in the making of these films.
Oh, yeah.
There was a CIA office for Hollywood to consult them on films to make everything look better. I think they actually consulted on Meet the Fockers to make...
That's great. Yeah. To make him so likable.
To make him likable. Yeah.
And it worked. He was so likable. And like in Meet the Fockers, like, or just all of these movies, the bad guy is always fighting like insane crime.
I know.
They're always fighting like a suicide bomber. Yeah. It's always like a suicide bomber. So like they have this idea that in Iraq, they were like saving the Iraqi people. People don't realize they literally killed 1 million civilians for a crime they didn't commit. Yeah. And what's so frustrating to me, and like I can talk about Iraq forever. This is like my special interest because one, the US Army stole billions of dollars worth of gold bars from Iraqi citizens. Two, Abu Ghraib, insane. And three, just like the absolute torture of these people for years. And then America came out the victor. That wasn't a war.
Well, it's like I said, all the times that we have thought that we were protecting like democracy and freedoms and like we're bringing liberty to the world, they're lying to you. Yeah. And one of the real reasons I know that is because American military men and women have come out and said it. Yes. You know, we thought we were going to do this, and when we got there, we weren't. And it's very similar to seeing, you know, something like Breaking the Silence, where, you know, IDF soldiers go in, and I'm not trying to make them look like they didn't know, they don't know, but they go in thinking that they're, you know, protecting the interests of Judaism and blah, blah, blah. And then they go in there and they're like, oh no, we are just harassing Palestinians. We're a police force that is harassing and killing and beating Palestinians.
And honestly, the saddest part of all of it is the people who suffer the most, aside from like obviously the Arabs at the hand of it, are the veterans that come home.
And then they're not taken care of.
They're traumatized because they were told that if they like torture and kill these people, that they were a patriot. And then they're on the street. Yeah. Limbless, struggling with intense PTSD. There's like a wonderful book called My Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, I've read that.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. I think a lot of Palestinians should read that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. About how, and the first chapter is about how these veterans were like, they literally can't live with themselves. And the veteran suicide rate is insane. And it's because America convinces them that like you're a patriot. I don't think that's patriotism.
No, it's not. And also, fuck patriotism.
Yeah.
I'm so done with it. Honestly, like why are we being like, you know, subservient to a country that isn't serving us? Like I can understand if you were living in a country where they like really take care of you. Although, you know, maybe Israel because America pays all of their, you know, taxes. But like I can understand it in a lot of ways if the country was taking care of you. But like, why are people so obsessed with America when no one is being taken care of?
I think they have to be. I think like to realize America's faults is to realize that you are serving capitalism. Yeah. Like you are not serving like the land of the free. Yeah. They during the BLM movement and the Palestinian Liberation Movement, they are brutalizing protesters who are practicing the freedom of speech that the patriots fought for.
Yeah, supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I feel like I'm the patriot here, I'm using my freedom of speech. Yeah. I'm fighting to keep our tax dollars in America where we need it so desperately. Yeah. And yeah, it's crazy. I was always so like suspicious of this like God bless America. I was like, why?
I mean, honestly, America has been a part of almost every horror that has happened in the world that we've been aware of.
Yeah.
And a lot of that we aren't.
Yes.
They are involved in proxy wars.
Yeah.
There's a whole Wikipedia page about, U.S. involvement in coups and regime changes. So,
oh my gosh. And
I mean,
Israel
I talk about that
well.
all the time, by the way. I think it's super important that people understand that if the United States really wanted to enact a regime change in Gaza or the West Bank, they would have already.
Yeah, they could have
easily. They didn't because Hamas was the regime change.
Yeah,
against the PLO. And because the PLO was a secular group that was fighting for Palestinian sovereignty, and they couldn't fight against that, so they needed, they needed Islam because people were scared of it already, and then they did that. So I think it's super important for people to understand that, like, in every country, by and large, that the United States has wanted to change their government, they have been involved in it. Look at what has been happening in Congo.
Yeah,
there were Americans there. Why were there Americans there? Like, let's just be really honest about like. There's no place too hard for them to get to that they couldn't change or be involved in a coup. And they talk about it openly. Like, a lot of people who were involved in the CIA and the Pentagon have gone, that aren't anymore, have gone on news programs and said, like, if we don't like them, we change them. Yeah.
Oh my God, America has the power in the entire world.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I think that's super, super important for people to understand that that Hamas being there is at the behest of multiple countries that want them there because they can consider them a terrorist group. They don't need to consider them a resistance group, and they have already programmed people to believe what they want them to believe.
And the Palestinian liberation was never hyper-Muslim.
No, it's not.
It's
been very secular.
It's never been hyper-Muslim.
No, it's not.
Just like so easy for them to be like, look at these Muslims. They're so bad.
Well, I think it's also important for them to do that because they have structured people to believe that Islam is somehow like, a death cult or something.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Because I think people just have no understanding of what Islam is.
Yeah.
When I tell people that that Muslim people believe in Jesus, they're like shocked.
They're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, and Moses too," and they're like, "What?" It's like shocking to people.
The Christian Islamophobic comments are always like, you Jesus hater.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus was like absolutely not worship, like
a prophet.
A prophet, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like Mary was there, like
all of it. Yeah, I think that people it's like, the propaganda is working, the propaganda is working. And so if it's working, then people don't do more. And that's why things like TikTok are so detrimental to what's going on because it is us educating each other.
Yeah.
And giving like these facts that we all know or have researched that we just are like, hey, you might want to know this. And they're like, no, you don't get to do that.
And it's like crazy. I get comments all the time. Like, this was like maybe in the beginning, and people were like, "You're the first Palestinian I've ever seen in my life."
Oh yeah.
It's like I didn't know what Palestine was.
Well, that's why I think that like what my sisters did in the beginning was so important for what Gen Z is experiencing now and this understanding of Palestine. And what they did was an act of resistance, but it was just saying I'm Palestinian.
Yeah.
And when people didn't do that.
So we talked a little bit about media and changing the media. And I think what's so incredible about our generation of Palestinian resistance is we're no longer letting them make us the terrorists on TV. Fantastic, which makes me really excited to talk about your new position as creative director of Watermelon Pictures, Palestinian production company. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. All the things that we've been talking about, the dehumanization and how media has been really complicit in it, movies and TV and journalism.
Yeah.
You know, we just want to flip the script. We want to have real conversations. And, you know, just like everyone deserves representation, Palestinians and all oppressed groups deserve representation. There's so much amazing talent. And the reason why they haven't been able to be platformed is because they're not towing the line. They're not continuing the narrative. They're, you know, they're showing Palestinians as funny and cute and, you know, and sad and, you know, oppressed and also joyful and excited and all of these different emotions that of course we have because we are humans. We just want the world to be able to see us as what we are. Humans who are living our lives no matter what, under oppression and occupation, but also humans, just humans.
Everything is a trauma story.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
They're so important and I love them, but like, I don't want to see another Arab like orphaned like in the movie and they're like crying. Like, I want to see like the real truth of like, we laugh, we're the funniest people on the planet, our families are insane. Like, if my family had a reality show, it'd be the biggest on the planet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just excited because I know you know that I was a screenwriter.
I know.
I am a screenwriter, and
you also do really good voices.
Oh, thank you.
Which I'm like super into, and trust me, we're gonna like tap you when we do like the big Palestinian like animated film. I want you to do all the voices.
I literally can't wait. I talk to Hamza all the time I text him, I'm like, so when are we gonna like make the biggest movie
It's happening.
on the planet?
It's gonna come.
But a funny like trope that came out in the beginning of like October 7th is that it was like anti-Semitic to say that Hollywood is controlled by Zionism. When I spoke out for Palestine, I lost my manager, agent, entertainment lawyer in the span of a month.
I think it's also important that all industries are controlled by fear.
Yeah.
Especially in this country. And so it's not just about Zionism or Judaism. It's about fear. And so people preemptively are so afraid of this topic that they've never allowed it to be part of the zeitgeist, part of the like, you know, pop culture, because they're so afraid of being canceled.
Yeah.
And they're so afraid of being, you know, oppressed, basically. They don't want to be treated like Palestinians.
Yeah. Which is honestly so pathetic and embarrassing.
Yes.
Like my manager was a grown woman and like a Catholic.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, fear.
Yeah. And was like so pro-Palestine when it came to like my scripts about that were so sellable at the time.
Yeah.
Until
super afraid of what the possibilities are of being painted. And now it's like they look back and those people are probably like, you know, posting watermelons on their social media because now they feel safer.
Yeah.
What's important is like to note the people who are doing it when it's not safe for them. Because it's never safe for Palestinians to be Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's also not been very safe for anti-Zionist Jews to be anti-Zionist Jews. It's also not safe for a lot of people to have supported Palestinians right away.
Yeah.
But just being Palestinian is unsafe.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like dictated my whole life. I told this story on TikTok, but when I was a kid, or when I was in like 7th grade, we were doing a project on where you're from. And I was doing my project on Palestine, and my teacher, who was like a crazy Trumpy Republican Georgia girl, she comes up to me and she's like, what are you doing your project on? She was asking everybody. And I said, oh, I'm Palestinian. I'm going to do my project on Palestine. She said, if you can't point it out on a map, you can't do your project on it. She pulls down the map. And she's like, if you can't point it out on the map, you can't do your project on it. Obviously, there's an American map, so there's like...
You're like, well, what's that little part down there and the other part up there?
Yeah. And it's always been
people always say that. Well, Palestine doesn't exist because I can't find it on a map. And I'm like, well, then take down the walls. What are you fighting for? Like, if there's no Palestine and no Palestinians, then why do you have walls and checkpoints? Just get rid of them because there's no Palestine.
Palestine doesn't exist. You could just
it's fine. Just
have a one state.
let people come in no matter what. Yeah. Like, what's the problem?
It's like, that's what we've been talking about. Like,
it's like, yeah, okay, if there's nothing to be fighting for, then like dismantle your military, take down the walls, get rid of the checkpoints, and allow people to return to this country, whether you call them Palestinians or not.
Yeah.
And that's why I find the erasure is insane.
That's why I'm excited, because this new generation is coming with like awesome. Freaking vengeance.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I actually, I have a meeting with Watermelon literally today after this. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not on that call.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, girl. I'm scared.
I'm like, I'm doing this and then I'm going home.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm exhausted. Last night was crazy. But what's funny is like, I knew this was coming. I felt it in my body that there was like a huge intifada coming.
Yeah.
Like since I was in high school, I'm like, I always felt like I would wake up crying while I was sleeping because I would dream about it. And when I was in high school, I started writing a show about what it was like to be an Arab American growing up in an American high school. And because it was crazy. It was unreal. It was like, that would be an amazing
show.
So I wrote it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was signed to my manager for.
So is that what we're talking about?
And that's what we're pitching today. And I mean, this show, I know in my heart, what's funny is after October 7th, like it laid dormant for so long because I mean, I lost everything. It was originally pitched everywhere. It was pitched to like every major network. They all said no. You're going to regret it. They were always like, we don't know if there's an audience for this when there's like millions of Palestinians in the diaspora. But so I think like, I think it literally starts with us just like showing that Palestinians can be kids, Palestinians can be funny, Palestinians can be American, they can be in love, they can be scared, they can be sad, they can be fucking human.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just important for all people to be represented. But Palestinians have been so incredibly maligned, and it's so important for our message to just be that we are human and we have a human experience just like everyone else. Yeah.
And I think
I'm excited.
Thank you. This show's gonna get made. Inshallah, like it's been like my life's work to make this show, and I want to play in it and be like,
well, you're doing big things, so I have no
thank you.
And if you're doing big things and you're coming to us, I feel like look out for it.
Look out for it on TV near you. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think like we're changing the world. I think like not even us two. Well, I think us two. I mean,
yeah, I think we all are.
But I think all of us. It's like I think like I always said that my original job as just like a Palestinian in the world when I was on TikTok originally just doing skits is like people were like, hey, like Arabs are like cool, they're normal, like we have to like we have to like bring them back into reality. And I think like a wave of Arab media is coming, Arab takeover 2025.
Yeah, let's do it. And I also think it's important that we have the conversation around we talk a lot about divesting. We need to talk about investing. Yeah. So invest in Palestinians, invest in Arabs, invest in us as a people. You can't just, when you take away that money from people, where are you going to put it? You should be putting it back into the groups that need it. So yeah.
I'll put my Venmo in my bio. Listen. Yeah, exactly. Like also, like, there's so many billionaire Arabs in the world with that oil money. Yeah. I know you see me.
I'm just talking about like mom and pop, like Joe and Jan. But yeah, no, I just think, we're doing big things where, we did like block out and, people are really adhering to BDS. Yeah. And I think people need to look even more deeply into targeted boycotts. Yeah. Like we need to be really targeted. That's the point. Yeah. That's why the BNC exists. That's why BDS exists. But when you take that money away from somewhere, also you can reinvest in yourself. Yeah. But reinvest that money that you're taking away from, Israel and Zionism and put it into Palestinians. Yeah. Don't just put it into like, random things or find another thing. Try to find a Palestinian small business near you that needs it, or, start looking for the movies that are on the platforms that are made by Palestinians and like start watching those.
Go to Palestinian art shows, go to Arab art shows, like immerse yourself. I mean, I met a director who was like white and she was great, and she was telling me like, The reason I'm so pro-Palestine is because Palestinians are like the kindest, most welcoming people on the earth. Like,
and we would give you the shirt off our back, and
I'll give you this right now.
Yeah, honestly,
like, I'll take this shirt off right now.
If you want something that a Palestinian is wearing, just give them the compliment. They'll just take it off and give it to you.
Yeah, Palestinians are just so
giving and loving.
So it's like, if you want to step into that world, like, it's there for you. We're waiting for you to come. We're not mad. Like, it took you this long. Yeah. But speaking of investing in Palestinian businesses, listen.
Yeah, you're amazing. Top.
I started my clothing brand pretty recently. It's been like 3 months now.
No, it's crazy.
Iuni. This is like my pride and joy and my life's work. And I literally made it because I was like, I want to wear a kufiya every day, but sometimes it gets sweaty under there a little bit. I was like in Amman, and I went to like a seamstress, and I was like, can you make me a crop top? And she was like, in Mhajibeh.
Yeah.
And she was like, no. She's like, no. And I was like, please, I'll give you any money you want. It's like 5 JD to make a shirt there. And she made it. And then I came to America, and everybody's like, I need that on my body.
It's awesome.
So if you want to support a Palestinian business,
yes,
please support Iuni. Yeah. We donate 50% of everything to Palestine. And yeah.
But also I think it's also important to say, Palestinians are not a charity. We work. We deserve to be supported.
Yes.
We deserve to be successful. We deserve to make money. Yes, I think right now, obviously, like giving money back to the people who are suffering right now is super important. But we deserve success. We deserve to make money. We are not a charity case. Yeah. And so, Palestinian-owned businesses that are not giving money are not to be like, made to look like they're horrible. We deserve to thrive.
And also, like, there's so many Palestinian families that are still living paycheck to paycheck because of the trauma of being a refugee, the trauma of being displaced. Like, it is so, Palestinian American families even, like, it is so hard to assimilate into America. So like, if a small Palestinian restaurant can't donate, that's okay. Yes. Like, eat their food anyway.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But it's beautiful because I also do like TikTok, and I also do other stuff and acting. So
you do everything.
I do literally.
I don't know how you're not like on the floor in the fetal position.
I like go home every day and I just lay like this.
Yes. It's awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
This has been amazing. I could have done this for 4 hours.
I literally, I would love for you to come back one day.
I will come back. I'll be your second guest. No, I'm just kidding.
Literally, if you're down, you are an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
You inspire me. I go on your Instagram when I'm feeling like I'm about to like end it all. And
I love
I'm like, there's someone else that is experiencing this immense insanity. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I just want you to know that there are little Arab girls across the world that see you, and you give them hope for the possibility of being like a successful, beautiful, loved person in society.
Thank you.
So I love you.
I love you.
And thank you so much for being here.
My baby.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into our first episode. I'm so excited to go on this journey with all of us, and free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Woo!